Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto get married with Mummy and become Egypt god. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Naruto slowly woke to the feel of the sun in his eyes shining through the window. He blinked a few times, rubbing his eyes with his hand. He looked up to the sight of his husband laying in bed next to him. Naruto smiled, gently squeezing out the warm embrace. Getting dressed quickly and quietly, making his way out the room through the palace halls into the kitchen and began to make their breakfast. While he worked, Naruto let his mind drifted, thinking of their past year together. Shortly after Naruto and Sasuke had spent their time in each other's arms, Naruto had thought his friends would come look for him soon. Unable to face him, he had convinced Sasuke to leave the tomb. Naruto lay in Sasuke's arms as they talked of what happened while they were apart. While Sasuke ran his fingers through Naruto's hair, Naruto told him of his life since being reborn, and Sasuke told how he put together being able to come back to life. Naruto suddenly jumped up as he stopped in the middle of talking about his friends. "Naruto, what's wrong?" Sasuke asked, concerned. "My friends, they're sure to come looking for me. We have to go." After leaving the tomb, they had wandered the desert trying to think of where they could stay. When Sasuke had come up with the brilliant idea, if he should say so himself, to stay at the old oasis hideout. Naruto had fully agreed with the idea. The best part was they had Orochimaru cast a spell on it when they were still having a secret relationship in their past lives. Orochimaru knew about their relationship. The spell made it to where only they could find it. Plus they had an exact replica of their old castle in it as well. Naruto and Sasuke walk up to their palace, now made home, hand in hand. They looked at the outside to see it covered in plants, flowers, and dust. The inside promised to be the same. Sasuke heft. The door open as it had been seated for many centuries. Naruto looked at their old hideout with a smile. "A little paint and Mr. Green and well have this place up in no time," Naruto said. Sasuke gave a confused look. "Mr. Who?" he asked, not recognizing the name as one of the people Naruto had told him about. Naruto chuckled at the question. "Nothing to worry about. Let's just get started on our home. I had taken a few weeks to get everything in shape, but with a little help with Sasuke's powers and Naruto going to the market to buy cleaning supply, it had all gone well. They had spent the past year living in that palace. They tended to try and stay away from the outside world for now, seeing as Sasuke knew nothing about it. The only exception was Naruto's trips to the market. They weren't as bored as one might think they would be. They had many things to entertain themselves. One being Naruto trying to teach Sasuke the language of the present day and how the world had changed since he was gone. It was a good thing Naruto's previous job with the travel journalist had required him to know so much about different countries they visited, from their culture to their language. He, yo, miyn. Na mi name I, is Sasuke. Sasuke stuttered out, trying to get the new material Naruto was teaching him. Naruto smiled excitedly. "That's good, Sasuke. You're starting to get it." Naruto encouraged. "At this rate you'll know the basic by the end of the month," Naruto said. Sasuke groaned at those words. Sasuke was actually picking up on English much faster than Naruto had expected. Though Naruto still thought he had a while before he was completely fluent in the language. Lessons weren't the only thing Sasuke and Naruto did during their spare time. Shockingly, their library had survived and the books intact, if a little dusty. When that became boring, they went swimming or picking fruit from their gardens. Sometimes Naruto would even convince Sasuke to come to the market with him for their other necessities. They paid with jewels laying around the castle and oasis. Though they tended to not do that much since Sasuke was getting over his cultural shock. Overall, their favorite pastime was making love. Naruto panted harshly, hands gripping the bed sheets. Gripping so hard his fingernails began to cut through the fabric. Sasuke continued his slow, hard thrust, sending them both to bliss and beyond. With a particular hard thrust to his prostate, Naruto come. With a shout, Sasuke too came at the feel of Naruto tightening around him. They lay panting in each other's arms, simply enjoying the afterglow. giving each other slow lazy kiss. Of course these actions didn't come without a price. Naruto limping sore around the house. Sasuke wincing at the deep scratches and marks on his back, which they weren't really complaining about. Though the biggest being the little bundle of life growing inside Naruto. Yep, you heard right. Naruto was exactly 1 month pregnant. Yo, you see, though they never got a chance to test it out in their past life. Before their wedding, when Naruto was killed, Orochimaru had given him the blessing to have kids. To say they were excited would be understatement. They were overjoyed, if a little scared. What if they weren't ready? What if they suck at being parents? Such thoughts were immediately washed away at the sight of each other's smile. Though it didn't help the way they found out. Naruto made a break for the bathroom for the 10th time this week. He emptied his stomach as a worried Sasuke rubbed his back, holding his hair, which he let start growing back out, hoping it would give Sasuke a sense of normalcy. Once he was done, Sasuke gave him a serious look. Naruto, something is seriously wrong. I'm going to have to use magic to see what's the problem. I know you don't want us to be too reliant on it, but I can't see you suffer if I can do something about it. Sasuke reasoned. Naruto simply nodded, letting Sasuke do as he pleased. Sasuke did a series of chants and hand signs, placing his hand on Naruto's chest. His eyes widened, mouth agape, as he tried to form words. Naruto, taking it the wrong way, began to get scarred. What was wrong with him? Was he dying? Did he have a disease? Was his time with Sasuke really going to be cut short by death again? Sasuke, what's wrong? Naruto asked. It's a, he stuttered. Naruto's fear shot through the roof at this. What's wrong? He shouted, slightly panicking. It's a baby, Sasuke whispered out. Naruto's mouth dropped open. They were anything but prepared for the news. They spent the first couple of days doing nothing but research, looking for any and everything on babies and pregnancies, going so far as to buy out an entire bookstore at the market. They had books to add on, a whole new section to the library, which they spent hours in all day. Naruto was snapped out his thoughts by the feeling of arms around his waist. Naruto smiled, twisting his head back to plant a kiss on Sasuke's lips, putting the last of their breakfast on the table. They put one small one in the kitchen, because the one in the dining hall was far too big. Sasuke smiled, taking his seat. Naruto followed. They chatted about random thing while they ate. Mostly about what to name the baby, which was difficult since they didn't know the gender. So what are you doing today? I see you're dressed to go out, Sasuke asked with a raised eyebrow, a playful smirk on his face. Naruto chuckled at the look. Getting up to clean their plates, Sasuke helping. Oh, just to the market. Thog. I might look at a few things our baby will need. I'll be back in a couple of hours, Naruto said. Little did they know it would be much longer than a couple of hours until he was home again. Sakura packed her bags in a calm, steady pace. It had been exactly 1 year since Naruto went missing. The other had yet to let go of the belief that he was still out there, but Sakura knew better. She knew Naruto must have killed himself. That he would never live on with Sasuke. They might have stopped their searching, seeing as Sakura had at least convinced them that Naruto didn't want to be found. Which was halfway true. Naruto would never want his friends to find his dead, decaying body. Though they made a vow that every year they would come back to Egypt for 2 weeks. Stay in the same hotel, in the same rooms, on the same days they did once before, as a memorial of sorts. So that's what they were all doing now. Packing for their trip in the morning. Same plane, same suitcases, same time, same clothes, same everything. Sakura felt as if she stepped back in time. They didn't really know why they did this. Maybe reliving it would help them cope with letting him go. As if they could accept it this time. That losing him wouldn't hurt as much because they know it's coming. Sakura didn't have time to ponder these thoughts as she looked at the clock. It was late and she had to get up early so they wouldn't miss their flight, even though they planned to be late anyway. Next day on the plane. The plane ride was uneventful. They spent it talking about Naruto and everything they could remember about him. Trying to think of every little detail. Feeling that if they forgot a single thing, he would really be lost to them forever. Something they wouldn't allow. Once they got there, it was late. They decided to get some sleep. Next morning, They all sat around the table thinking of what to do next. They came here on a whim. They eventually settled on making a memorial ceremony for Naruto. They began planning. The ceremony would happen at the tomb entrance, the last place Naruto said he would before he vanished. They wouldn't go in fear of waking the beast that rested inside. A little late for that. They would all write speeches they wrote for Naruto. Then they would end the day by making him small shrine, a picture, some candles, and flowers. Finally take part in eating his favorite meal, ramen. The Y would have to go to the market to get all they would need. Proud of their decision, they made a quick list of everything they needed and headed out. With Naruto W walked down the marketplace, examining all the trinkets and artifacts around him. Nothing seemed appealing enough for his baby, who deserved the absolute best. Son of a pharaoh and all, but he kept looking. Naruto was dressed in a brown coat that partially covered his face, in order to hide the regal ancient Egyptian clothes underneath. When he and Sasuke moved in the palace, it was all the clothes they had. Naruto come across a stand selling jewelry. He saw 2 rings on the table. They were silver vine bands with Sasuke and Naruto eye color for flower buds. Their wedding rings. Naruto gasped at the sight. He picked them up, immediately asking the old lady selling them how much they cost. Not even counting how much he gave her, he snatched them up and ran off. Naruto slowed his pace. He started at the rings with a smile. He thought he'd never see them again. Naruto was too busy observing his rings, he didn't pay attention to where he was going. Only when bumped into someone did he look up. "Oh, I'm sorry," Naruto said frantically, waving his hands only to widen his eyes at who it was. "That's all right. It was my fault." The person stopped short at the sight of Naruto, their own eyes widening. Rai. Before him was Neji, and behind him were all the people Naruto was trying to avoid. Only one thing went through Naruto's mind at that moment. Shit. Chapter 3. N. Review. N. Naruto. Neji gasped, getting everyone's attention. They all gaped at the sight of him. Naruto, who had finally gained his senses, made a run for it. Wait. They screamed and made to chase him. Naruto didn't get far before he was caught. Desperate for a plan, Naruto used the first idea that came to mind. Amnesia. "Unhand me, strangers," he screamed, thrashing and kicking, but he was dragged back to their old hotel. Never giving up the fight all the way. "Calm down, Naruto," Kiba screamed, pulling him through the lobby. Neji, seeing enough of this, promptly knocked Naruto out. Everyone gave a sigh of relief. Kiba dragged Naruto the rest of the way to their room, throwing him on the couch. Everyone gathered around him, each staring in awe. Never did they think they would see him again. Various thoughts were running through all their minds. What had happened to him? Why didn't he contact them? Why did he run from them? Though the most stumped of all was Sakura. She had always been confident on her belief of what happened to Naruto, but him just laying there before her proved everything she believed wrong. Sakura had noticed how Naruto acted when they had caught him. He behaved as if he'd never seen them a day in his life. Maybe that was case. What if Naruto did believe he had never seen them? What if he forget? Amnesia. That must be it. There's no other reason Naruto would allow himself to live. Sakura was snapped away. Her brilliant revelation by the sound of Temari's voice. Is it really him? Did we really get him back? Temari whispered out, breaking everyone out their trance. Sakura frowned, placing her finger on her chin, a universal sign for thinking. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Sakura said. Everyone looked at her like she was crazy. What do you mean? He's right there, Kankuro said, pointing at Naruto. I have to agree with Sakura. Didn't you notice how he was behaving? He acted as if he completely didn't know us, Shikamaru said. What are you saying? Ino asked nervously, though she had a pret. Why, good guess on what he meant, like everyone else. He has amnesia, Neji confirmed for everyone. What? You must be joking, Hinata stuttered. Think about it. It explains so much. His disappearance. Why he did contact us. Why he ran from us and pretty much attacked Kiba when he got a hold of him. Shino explained. Looks of realization and acknowledgement dawned everyone's faces, along with worry and fear. So what do we do then? Gaara asked, finally putting in his 2 cents. Well, all we really can do now is wait for him to wake up. Then we'll explain the situation. Hopefully he'll trust us. Not to tell us what he's been up to over the past year, Neji said. Everyone nodded in agreement. Hey, maybe we could check his pockets and see if he has anything on him like identification. Ino said. Good idea, Hiba said, going over to Naruto and grabbing his pouch. He placed it on the table in front of everyone and began delicately removing items. He pulled a small blue bag, 2 beautiful rings, bread, water, and a book on baby needs. Strange choice of reading. What's in the bag? Shikamaru asked. Hiba opened it up, dumping out its contents. A small pile of precious jewel fell before them. They all gasped at the sight. Kankuro picked one up to examine it. Gee, this is real, he stuttered out. Where could he have possibly got this? Ino asked. Everyone began picking up the jewels, examining them. Shino picked up the 2 rings as well. There's no way he could afford these. Either, Shino said, pointing at the ring. Naruto's got a lot of explaining to do. Temari said, still in awe. As if on cue, a groan was heard from the couch, signaling his awakening. Sasuke, as Naruto made his way out the palace. He then returned back down the hallway. This was his chance to work on the nursery. Naruto had been having trouble finding baby items. He wanted their child to have traditional Egyptian royal nursery. Something not easy to come by. What he didn't know was Sasuke already had all the supply for it. When they had still been alive, Sasuke had hid it here because this was to be their honeymoon home, then their official palace. So being the pre-planner he is, he already had everything in storage, but he wanted it to be a surprise, so he wouldn't tell Naruto until he finished building it. Which was much harder than it seemed. Sasuke had been at it since they found out Naruto was pregnant, and today he would finally finish. All that was left was to paint the walls. He had kept the room bare of any decor so he could personally supply the hieroglyphics his child would look at through his lifetime. Sasuke spent the next 4 hours painting, unaware of the time, but when he finally checked, he noticed Naruto was quite late. Sasuke decided to give him a little longer before he began to search. He made his way to the library and read more on baby raising. After another hour had gone by, Sasuke began to really worry. Sasuke put on his brown cloak to hide his clothing and headed out. He searched all over the market, asking the workers of the usual places they visited. He spent hours into the day looking. It was dawn and he was still at a loss. Sasuke screamed in frustration, not caring of the people that started. Why must everything pull us apart? Maybe Sasuke should have gotten that cell phone thing, Naruto suggested. Excuse me, sir. Sasuke turned, seeing a frail old woman with a friendly smile. Yes, Sasuke asked politely. I heard you were looking for a young blonde with blue eyes and a brown cloak, she said. You know where Naruto is? Sasuke said in a hurry, all ears. The woman kept her calm smile. Yes, earlier his friends took him away to their hotel, she said. Sasuke immediately took off once he heard that. Someone was going to pay dearly for kidnapping his beloved. But before that he just had to figure out what the hell was a hotel. Italics underline equals ancient Egyptian. Naruto groaned, waking to the sound of voices. He opened his eyes, looking at the white ceiling above him. One very different from the palace ceiling he was used to. All the memories of earlier came back. He sat up abruptly, turning this way and that, taking in his surrounding. A look of confusion adorned his face. This was the exact same room he stayed in the last time he saw his friends. Naruto stopped his examination when he noticed the several pair of eyes on him. He turned to them, noticing all his stuff dumped out on the table, also the rings in Kankuro's hands. Temari looked ready to say something, but Naruto beat her to the punch. How dare you kidnappers touch my things? He yelled, jumping over the couch, grabbing the ring and over things. Kidnappers? Oh yeah, your amnesia. Well, let me explain. We're your friends. I'm guessing you woke up a year ago and didn't know where are who you were. Well, we can explain all that. We were your friends before you lost your memory. Temari explained. Naruto realized if he confessed that they would never let him leave. They would try to find out how this happened and take him back to America, and knowing them they would want to know what happened this past year, not to mention the little bundle of life growing in him. That would probably be the hardest to explain. Noticing he was taking too long answering, he acted fast. Sorry, I only speak little English. Didn't catch all of that. he said. Their eyes practically fell out by how wide they were. Kiba stepped forward with an annoyed look. He finally got his best friend back and couldn't even talk to him because of a stupid language barrier. What can you speak? Kiba yelled. Naruto tried to hold in his smirk. The ancient Egyptian he and Sasuke spoke was so old only they remembered it. My main language is ancient Egyptian, Naruto said. They all gave bewildered looks. Ino was first to speak. What the hell was that? She shouted. Gaara pulled out his iPhone. Siri translate. He motioned the phone to Naruto's mouth. Say it again. Naruto repeated himself. Everyone hung over the phone in anticipation. Naruto prayed to every god he knew that it wouldn't work. Finally it stopped. Language unknown. Translation unavailable. They groaned in frustration. All the while Sakura was pondering in the corner. That was ancient Egyptian Naruto had spoken. She recognized it clearly, but how could he remember it if he lost his memory? Perhaps he only remembered their past lives. No, if that was the case he would have reacted much differently to her. Could he be faking it? It made sense. If he had wanted to be alone and not be found, of course he would fake it, but then why pretend to not know English? Probably because he realized a few lost memories wouldn't make them more determined. Sakura smiled fondly at the thought. They had great friends. Sakura was drawn out her thoughts when she made eye contact with Naruto. His eyes narrowed slightly, so small she almost missed it. Then he turned his head away. Yep, he remembered her. Sakura looked out the window to see the sun had already gone down and it was rather late. She suggested to the others they should all go to sleep and come up with a plan tomorrow. They had all agreed and went to bed except Kiba and Kankuro, who stayed up another hour to explain to the confused Naruto to got to sleep. All unaware of what was in store for them tomorrow. With Sasuke. After hours of trying to guess what a hotel was, Sasuke finally swallowed his pride and asked someone. It was so humiliating. A lot of people had just walked away laughing thinking he was joking, but after the 5th time Sasuke got annoyed. The next person he asked he pretty much held hostage until he was satisfied with the information. Afterwards he asked where the hotel Naruto was at was, which the panic man swore he had no idea. So it looked like Sasuke was doing his the old-fashioned way and searching himself. Sigh. This means innocent Egyptian. Thoughts are dreams, Naruto's dreams. Naruto sat on Sasuke's lap with a parenting book in his hands. They were in the throne room sitting on Sasuke's throne. The room was grand. On the ceiling was a beautiful depiction of the gods. Along the walls were the stories of every pharaoh that ever ruled, Sasuke's as well. The stories wrote themselves with the help of magic, always changing and shifting. Long tall beautiful columns stretched to the ceiling. Sasuke's beautiful white and golden throne to the back of the room, where the lovers were currently lounging, discussing the book before them. Naruto suddenly put down the book and shifted his position to comfortably look at Sasuke. What are we going to do? Naruto said with a puzzled look on his face. Sasuke gave his own confused look at the question. What do you mean? He asked. I mean with the future. After the baby is born. When are going to take back Egypt? Are you planning to take over the world as well? When the baby's born? Or will you wait a few years? Are we going to build an army or will you just take everyone on yourself? Wham! Naruto was cut off by Sasuke's hand against his mouth. One question at a time, love. And yes, I've thought of all this, but for now I just wanted to have a nice life with you for a while with our child. And maybe when he's, I don't know, 10 years old. Then we'll worry about conquering the world. Sasuke explained, taking his hand away from Naruto's mouth. Before Naruto could ask more on the situation, he woke with a sudden push off the couch, twisting and turning so he would land on his back rather than his stomach. Naruto looked up to glare at the person who disturbed his sleep with a glare that could stop a raging bull in its tracks. Tamari didn't even flinch at the look. Breakfast ready, she said, smiling innocently, but the gleam in her eyes said otherwise. Naruto got up, following her and the smell of food to the kitchen. Upon arrival, Naruto found everyone already seated in the usual arrangement. It gave Naruto a comfort to be a part of this again. Naruto took his old seat, enjoying the feeling of it. Everyone else couldn't help but feel a shot of happiness. Having that open seat filled once again. It gave completeness. They had been lacking for the past year. Small smiles spread across the table. Naruto's eyes lit up as food was placed in front him he had not eaten since breakfast yesterday. This was a welcome and undeniable meal. Not to mention the little one inside him seemed to be hungry too. Naruto scarfed down the food in a matter of seconds. Everyone was a little caught off guard. They had forgotten how fast Naruto could eat. They stared in amazed silence for a while. Kankor began to let out small chuckles before it was a full-blown hearty laugh. I ha 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 forgot ha 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 how fast he could eat ha ha ha. He stuttered out between laughs. This sparked laughter in everyone as they all began to chuckle until the room was full of laughter. Even Shino and Gaara laughed along. It just felt so good to have Naruto back. Even the small stuff he does that they had gotten used to years ago seemed so amazing now. After their little chuckle outburst they finished their breakfast in content silence, simply enjoying each other's company. Even though Naruto pretended not to remember his happiness at being with them was obvious. Temari stood from the table when she noticed everyone was done. Okay, now that everyone's done we can start the interrogation. Discussion, she said. Everyone helped to rearrange the chairs so they were all facing Naruto and Neji began the questioning. Okay, first we should see how much he remembers and how much English he knows. Sound good? A round of nods. Neji then faced Naruto. What is your name? He said it slow and clearly making sure Naruto could understand. Naruto looked at Neji with a considering look on his face. He guessed he could give out a little information, but not much. Naruto, he said simply. What about your last name? Neji asked. Just Naruto, was the only response he got. Naruto had abandoned his surname. He was married now, so his name was Naruto Uchiha, but he couldn't let them know that. Though everyone else took this as a bad sign. If Naruto didn't even remember his last name, then the chances of him remembering much else. Neji continued anyway. What country are you in? Egypt. How old are you? 21. What's the square root of 144? 12. Okay, he hasn't lost his worldly knowledge, that's good. Let's keep going, Neji said. Naruto nodded. Where do you live? Neji asked. I will not give out that information. Naruto aid. Understandable, Neji said. Where were you born? Neji asked. Egypt. Naruto replied. That caught them all off guard. Egypt. He thought he was born here. His amnesia is way worse than they thought. They shared concerned looks before going back to questioning. Finally, what do you remember about the past year? Neji asked. Naruto, knowing that was a question he could not answer, honestly decided to play ignorant. Sorry, I don't understand, he said. They all groaned in frustration. It's okay, I can translate. Everyone turned to look at Sakura with astonishment. Sakura had decided, after a long debate with herself, that she would just translate when Naruto pretended not understand. She knew they wouldn't get anywhere if he kept playing ignorant. She knew she was walking on thin rope with this one. There's no way Naruto wouldn't notice she had her memories back after this one. She was jeopardizing her already fragile friendship with him. She probably already destroyed it if that concentrated glare Naruto was sending her meant anything. Naruto couldn't believe it. Sakura actually remembered. But how? The only way she could have got it back was when Naruto did in the tomb a whole year ago. Well, they did later find her behind the statue. She was probably there the whole time Sasuke was chanting. That would explain how she remembered. But if she remembered this whole time, why hadn't she tried anything? She had so many chances to kill him. Maybe she just didn't care anymore. The only reason she killed him before was because he stood in the way of her and Sasuke. As far as she knew, Sasuke was dead, so it didn't really matter anymore. Or maybe because he had vet her from Sasuke before and she was just returning the favor by not killing him. Or maybe them growing up as childhood friends in this life changed her view of him and she could no longer see him as the man who stole her fiancé. Naruto couldn't really know for sure, but what did know was her translating could complicate things. You mean you can understand him? When were you planning to mention that? We could have got a lot more done faster, you know. Ino said, annoyed. Shut up, Ino pig. I just forgot to mention it. Sakura countered. What did you call me, billboard head? Ino yelled. An N. Gree tick appeared on Sakura's head as she got in Ino's face. I dare you to say that again. Their actions were cut short by Naruto's next emotionless words. So you remember. It was a statement, not a question. Sakura answered anyways, if only to confirm his suspicions. Yes, she said with her own impassive stare. I guess you got them back a year ago too. By Sasuke. Naruto continued. Yes. Again Sakura's simple reply. What's he saying? Lee asked, but was ignored as Naruto and Sakura continued their conversation. I see you grew your hair out. You're starting to look like you used to. Sakura said, trying to lighten the mood. Only to fail terribly. What are your intentions? Naruto asked, still on a serious note. He needed to know what she planned to do with this new life and if she planned to still cause him harm, to put it simply. Nothing like you're thinking. I'm over my past. To be honest, I deeply regret it. After growing up with you in this life, I can see you as nothing but a friend. I couldn't kill you even if I wanted to. Sakura explained. She took a seat in front Naruto. Naruto accepted this answer, nodding in acknowledgement. To be honest with you, I have similar feelings. I forgave you ages ago. Naruto said with a soft smile that Sakura returned with equal emotion. That sat quietly together, contemplating what life for them would be like now. Would old things they did together become awkward? Would they have problems trusting each other now? Was the other lying? Should they talk about the past or just bury it? Though so many doubts ran through their minds, the small reassuring genuine smiles directed at each other promised a tough, long, and complicated future. It also would prove to be great. The others began to sense the intense feelings in the air. They were becoming more and more uncomfortable. Feeling so out of place. Can some please tell us what's going on? Kiba asked, frustrated at being left out whatever moment Sakura and Naruto just shared. Sakura was out the trance first, directing a apologetic smile to everyone else. Sorry, just got lost in small talk, she explained. Yeah, sure, small talk, Shino said sarcastically. Sakura was quick to change the subject. Okay, let's get back to the topic at hand, she said hurriedly, turning to Neji, their unofficial leader. Ask him what happened the past year, Neji said. Sakura nodded, relaying the message. Sakura, I can't tell them that. I will explain why to later, Naruto said, dead serious. Sakura gave a puzzled look at that. What could have possibly happened that Naruto couldn't tell them? He could tell them anything. Thought despite her wishes she trusted Naruto, and if he said they couldn't know, then they couldn't know. Simple as that. What he say? Hinata asked. He doesn't remember. Sakura lied. Well, where's he been staying? How does he eat? How'd he get those jewels? Shikamaru said. Sakura nodded. What do you want me to tell them? They're not going to give up, you know, she said. No, just tell them I already had them last I remember, Naruto said. Sakura relayed the message. They didn't know what to say to that. Shikamaru went into deep thought in his signature pose. Neji and the others in deep concentration as well. Gaara noticed that Naruto had been in that hot brown cloak this whole time. Wasn't he uncomfortable in that? Gaara voiced his concerns. No, I'm fine, I'll just stay like this, Naruto said, clutching onto the cloak. Temari rolled her eyes. It's not like we're going to steal it. Just take it off, she said, prying the cloak off. She was so sick of him being so distrusting. But what was underneath shocked everyone in the room. Under the cloak, Naruto was wearing a beautiful white and gold Egyptian royal robes. On his head was a slender golden crown. Something his hood was hiding well. Everyone gaped at the beautiful display. What the hell? What the hell? Temari shouted in utter shock, not really believing her heart could take any more surprises. They stood there unable to think for a moment. Naruto was first to get his senses back. He snatched his cloak from Temari's hands and made a break for it. At his sudden movement, the others were snapped out their daze and made to chase him. Naruto ran as if the devil was on his heels, the decorative carpet beneath his feet nearly catching fire at his fast pace. He couldn't afford to get caught again. There was no way to explain himself. Knowing his friends, they wouldn't give up until they got the whole story. Which was something Naruto can't give. Naruto dogged and weaved through the hallway, avoiding the other tenants and maids. Doing his best to not hit his stomach as well as not drop speed. Naruto could hear the startled gasp as everyone caught view of his clothing. He began struggling to get his cloak back on. only for it to get stuck on his earrings, the ones from Zoro wears in One Pieces. Naruto cursed lowly under his breath. Those damn things always got in the way when he was in a hurry to put on his cloak. Maybe he should invest in some studs. Oh, this wasn't the time to be thinking about this. People were beginning to stare. Just filming a movie, people, it's okay, head back to your rooms. Naruto began shouting as he continued to run. People seemed to nod in acknowledgement to what he said. Who would have thought that would work? It was just something he learned on TV anyway. Naruto suddenly felt a tug on the back of his shirt. He looked back to see his friends dead on his heel, close enough to where they could graze the back of his shirt. Adrenal shot through Naruto's veins and he began to run faster than any pregnant person ever should. God, Sasuke was going to kill him for straining himself like this. Then again, he would kill his friends if Naruto didn't get home soon. Reaching the lobby, Naruto saw something he never thought he would. It was Sasuke, arguing with the poor man at the front desk. Sasuke! Naruto screamed, catching Sasuke's attention just as Neji grabbed him by the back on his cloak, pulling him into a death grip to ensure he couldn't run from then again. Sasuke's face twisted into one of pure rage. After a very stressful search in finding the inn, Naruto was that he finally made it, only for the stupid asshole at the front desk to tell him that he couldn't give out the information as to where his Naruto was. They'd been arguing back and forth for the past 3 hours. 3 hours. The kidnappers could have left by now. To say Sasuke was at his limit with patience is an understatement. If Naruto hadn't insisted he not use magic on mortals, then this infuriating man in front him would be nothing more than a frog. No, not a frog that's too good for him. A grasshopper. That's perfect. He would be so easy to squash. Sasuke. The voice was sudden, but undeniably Naruto's panicked voice. Sasuke turned to his right to see his distressed, exhausted, and desperate lover being dragged away by what obviously had to be the kidnappers who took his beloved. Sasuke's vision clouded with so much rage you could swear his eyes turned red for that split second it took him to cross the lobby. He was unaware of the tourists with his camera recording everything as he charged the bastards that dared to lay a hand on his angel. Sasuke punched Neji with the force of a 10-ton truck, sending him flying back with a gushing bloody nose. He then grabbed Naruto by the waist. The others hesitated to approach after witnessing Neji's painful fate, but they knew they had to get Naruto from this maniac before he was hurt. Fear be damned. They refused to allow a thing to harm Naruto after already losing him once. But before any of them could act, the strange man began chanting in that ancient language that was dangerously similar to the chanting that the mummy from a year ago used. Shikamaru squinted his eyes at the sound, straining his eyes to see under the stranger's hood. And his horrified displeasure, he was met with dark, pitch-black, soulless eyes. Ong with pale white skin and raven black hair that unmistakably belonged to that dreaded pharaoh. Oh, but his presences wasn't what scared him. It was the fact that he had Naruto in his arms, who was helpless in his mercy. Should the pharaoh chose it, he could end him right there. But the weird thing was Naruto didn't seem scared. Why was that? Come to think of it, Naruto has never shown any real fear towards the pharaoh. Only ever a dazed look. Shikamaru was snapped out his musing by the sound of the pharaoh stopping his chanting. He watched as the pharaoh slammed his hand on the ground. An array of strange symbols surrounded him and Naruto. In a white flash they were gone. Everyone in the lobby watched the spot they once were in with a shock expression. The silence was broken by a very decoratively dressed tourists. Best magic show ever. At this shout a slow round of applause began before it was a full-blown out cheer. The only ones who understood the magnitude of the situation were the gang, who looked on at the spot with morbid expression. You all know what this means, right? Gaara said in a shockingly calm voice. Yes, the mummy is back. They all sat around in the living room, digesting what just happened a few moments ago. They had just witnessed the supposed dead pharaoh kidnap their friend. They were understanding, extremely confused. Damn it, why are we just standing here? We should be out there right now trying to get Naruto back. Temari shouted, feeling guilty for allowing this to happen. If she had not insisted Naruto remove his cloak, he wouldn't have run out and wouldn't have been captured by that stupid pharaoh. That just won't die. And what the hell does he want with Naruto? Calm down. We can't just charge into this with a half-ass plan. Remember what happened the last time? Neji said. Maybe. We don't need to act at all. Sakura said quietly. Instantly all eyes were on her. Mixtures of confusion, disbelief, and anger adorned their faces. Sakura had gotten over the sight of Sasuke very quickly. She had expected something like this after seeing Naruto's clothes and putting it together with his secret. Plus he seemed way too happy for someone who had lost the love of his life by his own hands. Sakura also realized why Naruto didn't want to say anything. So she would do what she could to stall their friends while Naruto came up with a plan, at least she hoped he was. What do you mean? We shouldn't act. Of course we're going to do something. Which we need to do quick before Naruto gets killed. Ino yelled at her. Sakura flinched back before defending herself. Don't you think if the pharaoh wanted him dead he would have just killed him then and there? Plus don't you remember what Naruto was wearing, also the way he talked? Sakura didn't know where she was going with this, but she had to try something. Everyone began to ponder on this. Sakura was right, but what did this mean? I noticed that as well. Not to mention when the pharaoh took Naruto, it appeared as if he was protecting him. But what could all this mean? Well, it's quite obvious he's not going to hurt Naruto. If only we had more options. It's not like we could just go ask them. We don't even know where they are. Shikamaru pondered this all out loud. Well, are we just going to sit here and wait? Kiba enraged. They couldn't just stand here talking about pointless things. There's nothing else we can do. We just have to keep an eye open for them. I know this is hard on all of us, but we have to keep clear heads. Neji said. They all quit with solemn looks. We'll keep an eye open. If we see either, don't engage. Report it to everyone and we'll tail them together. Shikamaru explained. Everyone nodded their understanding. Naruto, please don't come back anytime soon. Sakura thought to herself. With Naruto and Sasuke landed in their palace hallway down the way from their room. Once he steadied himself from their trip, Naruto turned to Sasuke. You idiot. He said, knocking Sasuke upside the head. Ow, is that thanks I get for saving you from those kidnappers? Sasuke yelled. Those weren't kidnappers. They were my friends. My friends who will now stop at nothing to kill you and get me back. Naruto explained. Sasuke frowned in realization. Well, this wasn't good. Don't worry, Naruto, they could never find this place. Sasuke tried to assure his lover. That's the problem. They'll never give up even if they can't find. They waste their whole lives searching for me. Naruto said with a tired sigh. Wow, loyal friends. Hey, maybe when we take over the world they can be part of the royal court. Sasuke said. Naruto simply responded with a murderous glare. You are so not allowed to joke. Matter of fact, you aren't allowed to do anything but breath for the next century. And I still might not even allow that. You are so sleeping on the couch. Naruto growled out, turning to make his way to their room. Leaving a scowled puppy of Sasuke in the hallway, but we don't even have a couch. He called out. Then make one. Naruto screamed back before slamming the bedroom door. Naruto was the best silent treatment giver to ever exists. Sasuke truly believed this. It has been an entire week since he had heard Naruto's sweet honey-laced silk voice. And he was starting to really miss it. He had to do something to get Naruto to forgive him. But what? And like that, a metaphorical light bulb appeared over Sasuke's head. The nursery. How could Sasuke forget that? Sasuke stood from his seat and walked over to a reading Naruto on the couch. Naruto, love, I have a surprise for you. Sasuke said cheerily, making sure to phrase his words right to get from his book. That was all the sign Sasuke needed to continue. I know you're not talking to me, but don't worry, you won't have to just follow me. Sasuke said. Naruto placed a bookmark in his book before looking up at Sasuke with an expectant raised eyebrow. Sasuke grin widened before he set off to the room. Once in front, Sasuke turned to Naruto, who was giving a confused look to the door. Ready? Sasuke asked. He received a nod. This was improvement. Naruto was acknowledging his presence. Sasuke used one of his hands to cover Naruto's eyes, using the other to open the door and guide Naruto in. Okay, on the count of 3 I will remove my hand. 1, 2, 3, okay. Look, Sasuke said, removing his hand. Naruto gasped at the scene before him. It was everything he wanted for their baby's room. It was simple, but still elegant enough for a prince. Lined with gold portraits of their people's history. Truly beautiful. So is this enough for you to forgive me? Sasuke asked hopefully. Naruto appraised him a while before finally opening his mouth. I guess it's enough for now. Naruto said, arms crossed over his chest. Those words were good enough for Sasuke. At least he had received words. He rushed at Naruto, engulfing him in his arms, spinning him around with a gleeful smile. Naruto laughed at his antics. Despite his previous anger, he missed this with Sasuke as well. The two lovers spent the rest of their day together, simply enjoying each other's company and the sound of their voices. Line break with Naruto's friends. This is hopeless, Tenten said, in exasperation, flopping down on the couch like the others. After a brutally long search for Naruto that day. Don't say that, Tenten. We'll find Naruto for sure, Lee said with a determined look on his face. How? We've searched everywhere, Ino screamed out. She was frustrated just like the rest of them. It had been an entire week since they started our search and there wasn't even a sign of Naruto. It was as if they vanished into thin air. Which could be quite possible knowing the pharaoh's abilities. For all they know, he could have already killed Naruto. The tortures he could be going through right now. Ino shivered at the thought. The mental image too much to handle. They're not just going to show up in the first week. If they're really in hiding, they would try to wait us out. It could be months before we find anything, Neji said, logically diffusing the situation before it got out of hand. All we can really do is hope he's alright, Shikamaru said, and they all fell into contemplative silence. After going over all their notes one last time, they all went to their rooms for some well-deserved rest. Naruto sat on Sasuke's lap in the throne room as they discussed baby needs. It's been 2 weeks since their makeup session. Naruto and Sasuke were once again a happy couple. They spent most their evenings together, laughing and joking, simply enjoying their time together, making their relationship stronger. It also helps Naruto forget about his friends, who were all probably extremely worried right now. It was making Naruto feel immensely guilty for avoiding them on several occasions. Naruto considered just going to them and telling the truth. Oh, he wished he could, but he couldn't be positive how they would react. For all he knew, EY could think he was brainwashed or something else stupid like that and still try to save him from Sasuke. They would probably get themselves hurt in the process too. On the other hand, Sakura could help back his claim and they might listen. And that's if she even backs him. She might just stay quiet, so she would be seen as crazy either. Then there was Sasuke to add to the equation. There were just too many probabilities. Not seeing the look on Naruto's face, Sasuke knew exactly what he was thinking about. Those people Naruto made friends with in this life. Sasuke couldn't help but dislike. Naruto said he can't hate them, those people. They cause so much trouble. Sasuke hated how Naruto got so upset because of them. Hey, how about we go for a walk through the market? Sasuke asked, trying to cheer Naruto up. Know well that this would be a huge risk going there, but if it would make Naruto happy he would risk it. Naruto looked at Sasuke in surprise. Really? You'll go with Ne? Naruto asked. Sasuke nodded. Of course, I'm never letting you go to the market alone again, Sasuke said. Naruto laughed, a true bona fide laugh. A joyful sound Sasuke hadn't had the pleasure of hearing for a while. Sasuke got up and went to get their cloaks. They'll need a disguise if they were risking this again. Once again the journal travelers were having a meeting on their missing member. Everyone was worse for wear. Bags under their eyes from lack of sleep. Sunburned skin from searching in the heat all day. They looked terrible. Neji sighed. I know most of us didn't get much sleep last night, Ino scoffed, understatement. She said under her breath. Neji ignored her and continued. But we have a long day ahead of us. Grab you walkie-talkies, we're searching the market today, he finished. They all gave a hopeless look and made their way out the door. Little did they know all their hard work would finally pay off. Sakura, Ino, and Hinata walked through the marketplace out on search for Naruto. Along with the rest of their group. Spread out all over, at least one of them would catch a glimpse of them, but that hope was quickly diminished with their recent unsuccess. Hey, do you guys think these earrings look good on me? Ino said while holding said earrings up to her head. Ino were supposed to be looking for Naruto, not shopping. Sakura screamed at her. There's no reason we can't do both. Ino countered. Hinata joined in the argument, feeling the need to defend Sakura. She thought all their focus should be on Naruto too. Sakura drifted out the conversation when she caught a glimpse of long blonde hair in the corner of her hair. Praying to every god that would listen, she turned, hoping it wasn't what, or rather who, she thought it was. Only to have her hopes crushed when she saw exactly who she hoped she wouldn't. Naruto. Ooh, Sasuke, look at that, Naruto said, dragging the poor pharaoh around to look at various items in the market. As tiring as it might be to come to this dead place, it was all worth it to get a smile from Naruto. Suddenly Naruto stopped in his track, causing Sasuke to slightly bump into him, almost making him drop the tower of shopping bags he was carrying. Naruto. What's wrong? Sasuke asked while trying to balance the bags and himself. Naruto turned and faced him with a huge smile. It just remembered I have a huge surprise for you at home. We've done enough shopping today. Let's go back quickly, Naruto said in a hurry to get back home, having remembered a certain pair of wedding rings he left in his other bag. Sasuke gave a puzzled look. Naruto seemed so excited to get out the palace. Now he's rushing back. What could be so important? Sasuke didn't voice his curiosity, not willing to deter Naruto from the suggestion. Eager to escape the valley of Dome known as a modern market, with that they rushed back to the palace. They didn't use magic to teleport back because Sasuke was still in trouble for the last time he teleported them. Sakura stood stock still as she looked at Naruto, unable to move from the overwhelming panic. She had to do something before the other found him. But she no way to warn them. Sakura, what you looking at? Ino said, noticing the absence of her rival in their argument. Sakura snapped out her panic state at her words, quickly trying to think of a lie to tell, but she was too slow as Ino's eyes landed on a smiling Naruto. Ino's jaw dropped as she watched Naruto run around picking up and buying everything in sight. Now Ino, calm down, breath, Sakura said as she tried to coax the shock out of Ino and Hinata alike. It's him. It's really him. We found him. Yes, Ino said, grabbing Sakura and Hinata into a large hug, jumping up and down in pure happiness along with Hinata as Sakura tried to calm them down, inwardly panicking. Calm down, you two. Do you want him to hear us? They both immediately calmed down at her words, shushing each other with wide smiles and giggly attitudes. Okay, we have to tell the others, Hinata said, pulling out her walkie-talkie. Now wait, don't call them yet, Sakura screamed, taking the walkie-talkie away from Hinata before she can turn it on. Ino and Hinata looked at her in surprise. Why not? He's right there and you want to wait, Ino whispered angrily at Sakura, not understanding why she was trying to stop them. If anyone should want him back, Saint, it would be her, seeing as she's his best friend and they grew up together. Sakura's eyes shifted around nervously as if looking for a response. We don't even know if that's him. That man has on a cloak, we can barely see his face. I don't want to get the others' hopes up without knowing for sure, Sakura said, trying to not to sound like she was making excuses. Ino and Hinata gave a dumbfounded look. How can you not tell that's him? He looked this way. We got a clear view of his face, Ino shouted, but still low enough to where she wouldn't draw attention to herself. Well, you might have seen, but I didn't, Sakura said, trying to hold on to her argument long enough for Naruto to just leave. Ino huffed in frustration. She grabbed hold of Sakura's head and positioned it to where she could clearly see Naruto's face. There, you saw him. Now give we that talkie, Ino said, jerking the device from he and turning it on to the group channel. Guys, quick, we found him. Hurry over to the south side of the market, Ino shouted into the talkie. Several voices could be heard yelling over the device, asking various questions like, how they found him, what's he doing, does he look okay? Ino wasn't she really able to catch them all, nor could she answer, seeing as everyone was talking at once. Shut up, all of you, just get over here and see for yourselves, Hinata yelled, taking the device from Ino, shocking everyone with her tone of voice and her words. She was usually so timid and quiet. To hear her like this, she must really want her friend back. The shock didn't last long as everyone headed to the girl's location. It took about 10 minutes for everyone to get together. Once they were all together, they bombarded the girls with questions on where he was. The girl pointed him out. Oh good, he looks okay. Lee sighed out. Yeah, but who the hell is that next to him? Tamari said, pointing at a figure carrying a mountain load of bags. Hinata and Ino looked as well. They had been so excited about finding Naruto they didn't notice anyone else. They all gave confused looks. I can't see his face. Tenten complained, voicing everyone's troubles. He turned around and they caught a glimpse of his face. They gasped in not surprise, but more like disappointment. They were hoping Naruto had escaped that maniac by now. They continued to watch Naruto and the evil pharaoh go around the market NGLY, picking up useless things that only Naruto could ever be interested in, like who else would buy a baby high chair for no apparent reason, other than to just have one. That's the kind of stuff Naruto did. It was refreshing to see him like this again. But after a while a few of them started to see this behavior for how strange it really was, even for Naruto. Does anyone else find it odd how happy Naruto seems to be? Gaara finally pointed out. Yeah, you would think being kidnapped and held hostage by a dangerous being like that would mellow someone out quite a bit. Kankuro added to his brother's statement. I noticed that. Actually, don't you find it odd that in all our confrontations with the pharaoh, Naruto never seems to be afraid? He even seems to be happier than usual. Shikamaru pointed out to the group. Well, what are you trying to say? Sakura said in fear, but not for the reason the group thought. But because Shikamaru was just too damn smart and had to figure it all out, didn't he? Could his brain just not work for once? Thankfully, before Shikamaru could explain further, Neji noticed Naruto's sudden change in behavior. He pointed it out, causing everyone to turn in watch. As Naruto suddenly took off at breakneck speed with the pharaoh to what they could only guess was their hideout. Quick, they're getting away, Ino said, rushing after her. They group followed after her. They ran until they got to the edge of the town. Noticing that Naruto and the pharaoh continued, finding it hard to chase after, seeing as there were no real good places to hide. So, that's how they managed to avoid us. They were never in the town to begin with, Tenten exclaimed. More and more questions keep getting answered and even more are coming up. Neji whispered just loud enough for everyone to hear. Well, we're not going to get anywhere just standing here. Let's chase after them, Tamari shouted. She got a round of nods and then they all set off after their dear friend and who they believed to be his kidnapper. Sakura could do nothing more than to go along and hope for the best for everyone. Following Naruto and the pharaoh through the desert was nowhere near as easy as you would think. They had to wait for them to pass a big enough sand hill for all of them to hide on, then had to make the long nerve-wracking journey behind the sand, hoping they wouldn't notice them crossing. It didn't help that Sakura kept tripping and making so much noise while walking. It was like she was trying to alert them to their presences. But that couldn't be right at all. They began to wonder Saint how long they still had to walk until finally Naruto and the pharaoh stop at what appeared to be nowhere, making everyone raise an eyebrow in confusion. Why did they stop here? Surely this isn't they've been hiding out in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly the pharaoh started chanting in that weird long once again, even Sakura couldn't understand him. And a massive building much like a palace started to appear, surrounded by a beautiful oasis that all watched wide-eyed as it seemed to rise out the ground. It became very clear to them how they could hide out for so long with no one even catching a glimpse of them. They watched as Naruto walked into the palace with the pharaoh. Shikamaru was first to snap out of his daze. Quick, we need to follow them in before the palace disappears again, Shikamaru said, running to the door. The others following after. They entered as quickly and as quietly as possible. They stared in awe at the beautiful palace entrance. It was a triangular garden entrance with a beautiful waterfall at the center that had paths from it flowing through the rest of the garden. Naruto and Pharaoh could be seen walking out the garden and into the main building. The door was easily located by the large statues on either side of it. They hid behind the pillars along the large paths on each side of the garden. When they finally left, they breathed out a sigh of relief. Okay, we're in now, we need a plan of attack, Neji said. Yes, but what are we going to do? Tamari said. Well, first we'll need a map of this place. And then we can decide what to do next. Shikamaru said next. They all shared wide smiles. They finally could get their friend back. We don't need a map, Sakura said, causing everyone to look at her dumbfounded. What do you mean we don't need a map? Ino said, giving Sakura a suspicious look. Ever since they found Naruto, Sakura seemed to be doing everything in her power to slow them down. It had even appeared that she wasn't going to tell No and Hinata about seeing him in the first place. Because I already know this place inside and out, Sakura explained with a sigh, causing everyone's eyes to widen in disbelief. Sakura met their stares head on. There was no point in lying now, but she also was so not telling the whole truth. She'd tell as much as she could about her past life without including Naruto or the pharaoh. She would telephone no lies, but she wouldn't tell the whole truth either. Sei actually did now the palace inside and out. Because of her assassination on Naruto, she had to learn every corner of the place. What do you mean you know? We have had no idea what this place looked like, let alone mapped it out. Shikamaru said, a hint of betrayal in his voice, showing how they all felt at the moment. Sakura, how exactly do you know this? Shikamaru asked. Sakura gave another sigh before explaining herself. It's because I remember my past life, Sakura said, receiving astonished but confused looks. Last year when we went to the pharaoh's tomb for the first time and I got separated from the group. I ended up in the same room as the pharaoh when he was casting a spell on Naruto. Later that evening I woke and I had all my memories of my past life. Sakura explained. She let the information sit in for a while. So what you're saying is you remember everything? Kenkaro said. Sakura nodded. The news hit them all hard. Some even having to take a moment and sit down. Well, that explains a lot. Lee huffed out. Everyone had noticed how Sakura had acted since they found out Naruto was back and how she seemed unfazed when he disappeared. Well, that still doesn't explain how you know the layout of this palace or why you act about Naruto, Shikamaru said, causing everyone to look at him surprised. They all notice her behavior, but didn't expect him to point it out. I know. Well, you see, I knew the pharaoh in my past life. I was his betrothed. Sakura finally got out. They stared at her, jaws dropped. Oh my, Hinata uttered out lowly. Why? You're joking? Tenten asked. Sakura shook her head. I can't really say more than this, just know that I can get us through the palace, Sakura said. Neji shook off the shock first. Well, once we have Naruto back you're going to be answering a lot of questions, he said. Sakura nodded in acceptance. She doubted that they would ever get home again anyway. Sakura led everyone in to the castle through the side entrance where the servant quarters were. Being that there seemed to be no servants anymore, it was the perfect place to sneak in from. They snuck their way down the hall following Sakura's lead. Being wary, they admired everything around them. They were mesmerized by the agriculture around them. It was like stepping into the past. Looking around once they felt they were they huddled together to plan their next move. Okay, now we're in, so what next? Tenten asked first to talk. Well, first we should find where Naruto is and wait for him to separate from the pharaoh, then we can take him home, Neji said, summing up their goal. Guys, I don't think we should do this. We should just let Naruto. Sakura couldn't finish her sentence because a wave of glares were sent her way from everyone as Tamari interrupted her. You don't get to have an opinion. After all the lies you told, you can only put in your word when you tell the truth. Before Sakura could defend hers, they heard voices coming down from the hallway. Acting fast, they ran into the nearest room. They were shocked to see what was inside. Is this a nursery? Lee asked. They turned to Sakura with an expectant look. Don't look at me, this room was a storage closet last time I checked, she said. They heard the door began to turn and nearly ran over each other trying to get to the closet, which was rather big. They left it cracked open to peek through. The person to walk through was none other than Naruto, and thankfully not the pharaoh. Sasuke was quickly rushed home by Naruto. All thrug out their trip. Sasuke had the uncomfortable feeling they were being watched, but he brushed it off when he couldn't see anyone. They made quick work of getting through the town, but once they hit the desert, Sasuke would bet his afterlife he heard someone. But when he saw no one, he ignored it, but kept a more observant eye on everything. Finally they made it to the hidden palace. Sasuke said, "Acha, NT to open it while Naruto impatiently shifted next to him. As soon as it was open, Naruto ran inside and made a break for their room. Sasuke ran after him at full speed, caught off guard by his sudden motion. Once inside, Naruto sat Sasuke down on the bed. "Stay here and don't leave the room, I have a surprise for you," Naruto said, making sure Sasuke wouldn't move while he went to get the rings he hid in the nursery. "I'll be right back with your surprise," Naruto said, rushing out the room. He turned down the hall and made his way to the nursery. He made quick work of getting there. Upon entering, he walked to the crib and got on his knees to pull the rings from under the crib. He smiled seeing it, but when he came back up his smile disappeared because surrounding him was all his friends. Egyptian thoughts. Before Naruto could scream, a hand was over his mouth. "Shish, Naruto. Do you want that mummy to hear you? It just us. We're here to save you," Kiba said. Naruto turned his eyes to Sakura, mouthed still covered. He raised his eyebrow at her. "I tried to stop them," she said in Egyptian, getting looks from everyone now that they knew what it was. She shrunk back from their piercing stares. Naruto's brow furrowed. "I told them who I was," Sakura said. Naruto's eyes widened, finally pushing the hand off his mouth. "You did what?" Naruto yelled, unknowingly drawing the attention of a certain pharaoh. "Shish." This time it was Sakura. "Not everything. Just bits and pieces," Sakura said. Naruto sighed, called down slightly. This didn't shock him much, only his friends could pull something like this off. Besides, Naruto had been considering telling them for a while. He wished for them to be a part of his and his baby's life. Plus, when Sasuke finally took over the world, he'd like them to stand at their side and be part of the new royal court. This only sped up his choice. "It's okay, Sakura. We had to tell them eventually," Naruto said. Sakura nodded in agreement, going to help Naruto up. English please," Kenkoru said sarcastically. They were suddenly interrupted by a mummy waking in with his hands over his eyes, peeking through them. "I promise I'm not looking, Naruto." "Aiju. He heard you scream." He didn't finish his sentence, seeing the strangers in his home. Only they weren't strangers, they were the very people who had been getting in his way since he came back to life. And even before that, in the case of Sakura. "You again. Get your hands off my Morueti," Sasuke said, charging at Sakura, only to be stopped by Naruto jumping in his way. "Stop it, Sasuke. That's how you got in trouble the first time," Naruto said, causing Sasuke's arms to sag and for him to whine slightly like a little child. "But I was trying to help," he whined. "I don't care. Now, wait outside in the living room until I can calm them down. Then we'll just have to tell them everything," Naruto said, more like yelled. "But," Sasuke began, looking at Sakura with poorly concealed distrust, not that he was really trying to hide it. "Be quit. No arguments," Naruto yelled out, pointing to the door. This was way too much stress for him when he's pregnant. All this drama really fucked with his hormones. Others watched in amazement as the previously believed pharaoh stuck his hands in his pockets angrily and walked out. Sasuke walked into the room, closing the door and resting against it, a pout on his lips. "Tell me to shut up." "I'll shut up. But when you gone I'll be talking again," Sasuke said, just to be difficult. "What was that?" he heard through the door, causing him to jump in fear. "Nothing," he said, running to the living room. "I thought of stopping here, but that would be evil." Naruto sighed with an amused smile at the door before turning to his friend's bewildered look. "You just scared off a mummy. Even I can't do that," Gaara said. "I know you must all have question. And I promise Sasuke, the mummy, Sakura, and myself will explain it. You just have to come with us to the living room. If our years of friendship means anything to you, you'll trust me," Naruto said, resisting to urge to laugh at Gaara's joke. "They were so rare you had to let yourself enjoy them, but this no time for laughing." Sakura came to his side and held his hand, giving him a small encouraging smile. Naruto smiled. It was nice to know their past disagreements didn't affect their present friendship. "I guess growing up with someone like a sibling really changes your view on them." They watched together nervously as their friends exchanged glances. A silent conversation that only a group as close as them could have. They all nodded, coming to a conclusion. "Okay, we'll listen. It's the least we owe you." Sasuke was sitting quietly on the couch, afraid of that near dog here future mothers seem to get. It's true. I swear my mom has like super hearing. In my house we always joke around with it, saying things like, watch your mouth. Mama got dog ears. Remember, when Naruto had brought the now more calm group of teen to the living room with him. Naruto chuckled at that and sat next to him running his hands through Sasuke's hair. You can talk now, he said, smile still in place. Sasuke let out a sigh of relief. Thank the gods, Sasuke said, causing Naruto to burst into laughter which brought a smile to his face. English please, Kankuro said, getting frustrated with the lack of his native tongue. That brought a laugh out, everyone lightening the mood. Okay, I'm guessing you all want answers, Sakura said, taking a seat on the opposite side of Naruto. Getting a glare for her action by Sasuke. Naruto, seeing this, decided to stop it before began. Wait, before that, Sasuke, you can trust Sakura now, she not a threat. Naruto said, making Sasuke face him. Sasuke looked at him like he had grown a second head. Look, in this life I grow up with her and I know she would never hurt me, Naruto explained. Sakura nodded. I know this probably means nothing coming from me, but I swear I don't plan on ever hurting Naruto, and I feel terrible for killing him in our past life, Sakura said with genuine regret. Something Sasuke could spot a mile away, and though he didn't trust her, he knew he and to forgive her for all she'd done if he himself wished to get past this. Okay, I forgive you, but that doesn't mean that I trust you, Sasuke said. Sakura smiled, nodding excitedly. That's good enough for me. I'll earn your trust back, she said. Okay, now that that's settled. Questions. And so I was thinks when Sasuke decides to take over, he's going to need a strong government force to overcome. So I was think crossover with Avengers before Age of Ultron. I leaning this way because I don't feel I can make a good fake governor but need feedback, opinions other than my own. Say what you think in the reviews. Naruto sat before his friends with Sasuke and Sakura at his side as they gauged their reaction to their story. It was a lot to take in, obviously. So what you're saying is, Neji started first to snap out of it enough to talk. That he pointed to Sasuke, is a good pharaoh undead mummy named Sasuke who happened to be engaged to her, he pointed to Sasuke. But was in love with you, he points to Naruto. So she decided to kill you and you're all back and remember everything and you're totally cool with this. Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura all locked eyes before looking back at the others and said in unison, yes, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. They all have concerned, confused, and slightly fearful looks. Naruto also noticed the angered looks directed at Sakura. He racked his minds for ways to get his friends to understand. He brightened as an idea hit him. He was quick to relay his idea to Sasuke and Sakura in Egyptian. The both nodded in agreement at the plan. I know this is hard for you all to understand, but there is a way for all of you to feel more comfortable with this. We'll give you your past lives' memories back. Believe it or not, a lot of us were friends back then as well, Naruto said, catching his friends off guard again. How? Temari finally asked for the rest of the group. With the same spell Sasuke used to give Sakura and myself our memories back, Naruto explained. How do we know we can even trust him? He could put some kind of curse on us, Hiba said, giving Sasuke the evil eye. You trust us, don't you? Sakura asked, getting ashamed looks. As much as they wanted to trust this, they still felt hesitant. But they care for their friends too much to turn this down. They had never led them astray before. They haired understanding looks before nodding, giving their consent. Okay, we'll do it for you guys. Naruto and Sakura gave wide smiles at their words. All right, but the spell will take 24 hours to take effect. You'll have to wait until tomorrow for your memories, Naruto explained. They nodded in understanding. Okay, then let's get to work, Sakura said. Sasuke began to chant and give various hand signs. Everyone could feel the power in the air as it jumped into them and seeped into their very bones. It brought a shiver. It was over as soon as it had began. That's it? Tenten asked with a raised eyebrow. Yep, now we just have to wait till morning. They spent the rest of the day getting to know each other all over again. They learned about how Naruto and Sakura's past lives were like and their own. To say the least, Ino was not happy to find out she was a TASF for Sakura, or as she put it, a servant girl. They had gone into one of their classical fights that everyone had gotten used to by now. And it benefited Sasuke to see her like this. The new Sakura, not the old backstabbing, murderous, crazy bitch Sakura, but the kind, friendly, slightly annoying Sakura. A much better improvement. But what had pleased Sasuke the most was seeing Naruto smile so much again. He had known that Naruto was missing his friends, but if he knew they would have such a drastic change in his mood, Sasuke would have brought them here himself. They were deep in a discussion about the time Kenkoru fell in the Nile trying to chase a swan for its feathers and how Temari had to jump in and save him because he couldn't swim when Naruto cut through all the noise. "Oh, I almost forgot, I've got a surprise for you, Sasuke," Naruto said, making a run down the hallway too fast for anyone to follow. Before they could even register to go after him, he was back with a little bag in his hands. He sat next to Sasuke and handed him the bag. Sasuke just stared at him confused. "Go on, open it," Naruto said, practically bouncing on the couch. Sasuke had bought one, seeing as Naruto would order him to sleep there whenever he did something wrong. Sasuke opened it up slowly. Everyone was leaning in to see what it was. Sasuke gasped upon seeing it, catching everyone's attention farther. He pulled out two beautifully crafted rings. Sakura eyes widened seeing it as well. That what I think it is?" she asked. Sasuke nodded dumbly, still staring at the rings as if waiting for them to disappear in his hands. Naruto's smile was so wide at this point many wondered if it hurt. "What are they?" Gaara asked, wanting to know. What had the three of them so worked up about? "The little rings, as beautiful as they may be. Our wedding rings," was Sasuke's breathy answer. They had spent the rest of that day simply enjoying each other's company, and Naruto trying to get his friends to warm up with Sasuke and get Sasuke to warm up to Sakura. To say it was tiring was an understatement, add that with the little bundle of life in his stomach. Naruto was asleep by 8:30. Sasuke, not wanting to let his husband sleep alone, showed everyone to their rooms before going to his room himself. No one but Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto got any type of sleep that night. Most tossing and turning as memories of their past life came back to them. Neji and Hinata had learned that they were cousins, their previous lives a shock seeing as they were siblings now. They were also very high-class people, wealthy and respected among others. They even remember attending Sasuke's and Naruto's wedding and meeting them many other times as well. Kankuro, Temari, and Gaara were still siblings in their past lives. They were commoners but often played with Sasuke and Naruto as children and stayed good friends after because they had known Naruto before he was sent to the palace. He often shared meals with them. Stole means with them. They were even in the front row at their wedding, which was great at first until they got a decent splash of blood on them from an arrow going through poor Naruto's chest. That was to say the least a very bad day for them along with everyone else. Lee and Ino were disappointed to know in their past lives the part they played almost running Naruto's and Sasuke's life, but were happy to know they fixed their mistakes. Again thought the wedding memory was quite bad, even worse when they learned how Sasuke had killed himself soon afterwards, sending the kingdom into ruin, having no one to take over it. Kiba and Tenten were also very close. They were neighbors and also knew Naruto and Sasuke. Kenkoru, Temari, and Gaara had introduced them to them. They had become close friends very easily. The wedding incident had impacted them too. It had impacted the whole kingdom and was the beginning of the end for them. Many of them thought that the assignation was done by a rival kingdom. But to hear it was just for some stupid girl who couldn't get over being dumped was a bit much to take in. At least if it was from another kingdom, they would have something to fight for. Perhaps someone else would have risen up for the ashes and took back the kingdom for their fallen king and queen and later became the ruler themselves. Then maybe at least the kingdom would have survived. But no, instead it fell into chaos and slowly faded into nothing. Shikamaru and Choji were some of the people who were hit hard by this. They had owned the biggest trading market with other kingdoms, but with no king no one would trade with them. Sure, they had the previous king, but he was old and everyone expected him to die soon. Shino for one believed it, that why he moved out the kingdom the moment the news was heard. He never knew Sasuke and Naruto in their past lives, but he did attend their wedding as everyone did in EV. And not knowing them back then, anyone could feel the pain in the air. All of this new yet old information was a lot for them to take in. Several of them stayed in their room till late noon the next day, still processing it all. While others chose to get up and explore the past, but this time how they remembered it to be rather than how it is now. All the memories etched into the wall, all of it made more sense now. It wasn't until 7 o'clock did they all gather into the sitting room for a long and much needed talk. Hiba, Tenten, Kanuro, Tamari, Neji, Hinata, Lee, Gaara, Hinata, Lee Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, Shino. Everyone sat around in contemplative silence as they tried to fully process everything they had learned about themselves and each other the night before. Even with a full 12 hours, it was still so much to take in. And to add on top of all their identity crisis, they had to deal with the fact that one of their friends killed another. Why? Shockingly, Gaara was the first to speak. His question was direct to Sakura. No one had to ask what he was talking about. But they were a little surprised about his straightforwardness. Even for Gaara that was a bit much. They had wanted to ask the why same question, they just didn't know how to approach the subject. Sakura's guilt and regret could immediately be seen reflected in her eyes as she looked down. She lifted her head soon after, determined to face her past mistakes head-on and not let them affect her current life. That was the old me. The self, evil, big-headed, cruel, and stupid me. I really know what I was doing back then, and that ignorance cost me the chance of being happy in that life and jeopardizing my friendships in this one. Even if some of you, she glanced at Sasuke, do not trust me now, I completely understand, and I will be working hard to earn your trust and respect back again. I will show you all that I am not the same person as before, but a new woman entirely who will not betray her friends. Sakura finished watching for their reactions to her words. Naruto placed his hand on Sakura's, causing her to turn to him. You've already won me over, he said with an encouraging grin. He would never know just how much Ho's words meant to Sakura in that moment. She was nearly fighting tears. The others saw this reaction and gave their own uplifting words. We could never hate you. Your family. If Naruto can forgive you, I certainly can. I forgive you too, but I'd love you if you give me you potato chips in you hotel suite. Hate is not of my nature. The comments went round and round. Everyone said at least one thing except Sasuke, who was greeted with expectant eyes on him when they were done. He stared back before groaning with an eye roll before turning towards Sakura with an annoyed reluctance. IGUS. Since technically you're a different person, even if your soul's the same, I can't hold it against you. But that doesn't mean I trust you. Sasuke couldn't finish because a very excited Sakura jumped on him. Thank you, thank you, thank you, she kept repeating. Hearing those words come from the person she hurt the most and knew probably hated her the most was a great relief to her. How she could have ever hated these people. They had gone into a comfortable silence when Choji said, Sue, what's for breakfast? Sue, what's for breakfast? Choji asked, coaxing a laugh for everyone. Even Gaara gave a small, almost unseen smile, and, was that a chuckle? We'll eat in a while, there's just one more surprise for you guys. Naruto said, catching all his friends' attention again. He noticed an understanding and shocked look cross his husband's face. You're going to tell them that? I thought you might wait a while. Sasuke said. They're all too smart to have kept it hidden for long, and why ways, besides I'm already 5 months, my clothes barely hide the bump. Naruto whispered back the last part. Hiba held up his hand and lowered his head in an exhausted and thoughtful way before addressing Naruto. Hold on. You have more secrets. What can possibly be left? You can't get any more shocking than a dead mummy lover, disappearing for a year, and getting past life memories back. Hiba said, voicing everyone's distress. I'm pregnant, Naruto said simply. I stand corrected, Hiba said with wide unbelieving eyes. Everyone stared at the grinning Naruto and Sasuke with open jaws. How? Why? What? Neji said, which would have had everyone laughing seeing him stuttering for the first time, but they themselves were all too shocked to laugh at his expense. But Naruto wasn't. He was practically falling on Sasuke, trying to sit up while laughing. Sasuke joined him in his laughter simply because Naruto had that effect on him. Calm down all of you. Naruto was finally able to get out. An hour past lives the royal priest blessed my soul so that no matter what lifetime I would be able to carry children. For the sake of Sasuke and me, seeing as everyone thought and were correct that we are soul mates, so that in the future when we are constantly reborn we can continue to have kids. Naruto explained. Sakura was first to get out of her shock. That's great, Naruto. Can I be there when you deliver the baby? Is it going to be a boy or a girl? Sakura said, sitting closer to Naruto and pulling him in a hug. We don't know what it's going to be, we wanted it to be a surprise. Naruto said. The others finally came out their frozen states of shock and also congratulated the expecting couple. Sasuke suddenly got a look as if he had just remembered something. Naruto, we forgot to ask him about that thing we discussed when you were considering telling your friends. This once again caught everyone's attention. What thing? Naruto asked with a confused face. It had been a long couple of days with a lot of surprises and changes. You couldn't blame him for forgetting something. You know, the thing, he said again, stressing the word thing. Naruto's face lit up in realization. Ooh, that thing, he said. Shikamaru, tired of being in the dark about everything, finally shouted, what thing? There's always a thing. I don't think my beating heart can take any more things. Naruto gave a guilty smile at his words. He knows he was throwing a lot at his friends at once. Living mummy was enough to make any sane person think they weren't adding everything else that's happened. You can blame Shikamaru for snapping. His friends were looking at him with expecting faces. Naruto cleared his throat before starting. Do you all remember at one point when we were in our past lives the pharaoh announced he would conquer the world for Egypt? Naruto said, getting a round of nods. Well, he didn't exactly fail at that. Everyone's face scrunched up in confusion, but they didn't interrupt. You can say he had insurance. Sasuke took over for Naruto. We are going to claim the world for all of our homeland, and we want all of you be our side as we do so. As friends, council members, and generals for our armies. He finished. Complete silence filled the room. Gaara for once in his life didn't know what to do. He was usually so detached from everything that it really made it easy for him make decisions at times. But being told your now immortal friend and his undead mummy boyfriend were going to take over the world and wanted him and the rest of his friends' help was enough to rattle even him. He may not have shown it on the outside like everyone else, but on the inside. He was running around screaming and smashing his head into things to try and calm down. To say the least, it wasn't working. He was still panicking. He heard one of his friends giving out an overwhelmed sigh. He couldn't really bother to tell who it was because he was still processing himself. Naruto, we support you entirely in anything you want to do, even marry a mummy from all our past and getting our own memories and staying here with you if that's what you want. But world domination is well, don't you think it's crossing a line? Just a little. Well, Neji said, trying to express all their feeling in a way that wouldn't upset their friends. Because clearly they have lost their minds and it wouldn't be good to set them off. Naruto gave a laugh at their expressions. They just kept getting better and better. But he tried to calm himself down when he noticed that they were truly worried and nervous looking. Oh, you guys don't like the idea of being immortal and ruling the world with us? He asked, confused. Who in their right mind would pass up the opportunity to live an eternal life of relaxation and luxury? Also, it's not like they were going to be evil rulers. He had been to Sasuke's lessons in their old life, and it was quite clear that he was taught that a kingdom is nothing without its people, and a king's duty was to serve his kingdom and keep his citizens happy. In return, the trusted and loyally served him as their leader. Things might be bumpy at first with public relations, but they had plenty of time afterwards to convince them that this was an improvement from their now corrupted world, and they would all get better treatment with Sasuke as their leader. Naruto truly believed this because he knew Sasuke was a great man and an even better ruler, who thought of his people before anything, and would do his best to ensure they all lived long, happy, wealthy lives. He just needed his friends to understand this. Guys, you all know that we aren't the type to take things like this lightly. We intend to do this for the better of everyone. Look at world. It's corrupted. Not all of it, but enough to where to make good people are being messed over. while the bad continue to rise to the top. Even the people who are supposed to stop this are some of the ones doing it. If the world had a stable leader who had enough time to truly take care of this world's problem, it would start to get better. Think about how few good leaders have actually come to power in history and how many had enough time, resources, and capability to achieve what needed to be done. Sasuke can be that person. He will live forever, which gives him plenty of time and more to fix the major and small problems. He's just come into this time, so he doesn't have a desensitized way of thinking yet. And he truly has a vision and wants what's best for this world. Can you all understand that? Naruto finished, hoping he got his point across. He could see the understanding looks on his friends' faces, which made him feel happy, because that let him know that they at least understood and were, even if they didn't know it, considering the idea. But isn't world domination kind of extreme? Kiba said with a truly baffled look. Since he understood their point now, it wasn't too unrealistic and crazy. It was more like, if a dad found of his daughter was finally old enough to be attractive to guys and made her become a nun because he was scared she would get pregnant. That was how this situation could be looked at. The problem was defiantly there, but the means to fix it work but are unnecessarily extreme. Naruto and Sasuke gave exasperated sighs and shakes of their heads at them like our reasoning was completely irrelevant to the point. Sasuke was the one to talk this time. Okay, since you're all so sure we're being extreme, give me one good successful way that could fix this world, he asked. That left them all dumbfounded. They sat with considering looks for what seemed like a half hour, occasionally getting excited looks like they had figured it out before slumping back into their chair, mumbling things like, no, someone already tried that, or, the last person that did that died. Then Kiba got a wide-eyed look on his face, blustered very loudly, damn. There really is no other way to fix the world. Huh, maybe you guys' idea wasn't so crazy after all, he said, accepting. Okay, I'm in, he said with an casual grin on his face, like he was just talking about the weather and not agreeing to taking over the world. The others gave him a shocked look that he could just accept that and go along with this so easily. But this was Kiba they were talking about. It wasn't actually It's surprising that he'd be the first to agree. He was just that easygoing of the type. But we have to go pick Akamaru from the sitters in America first. They wouldn't let me bring pets on the plane, so I had to leave him there, Kiba said with a thoughtful look. That sentence was enough to bring everyone to tears in laughter. Only Kiba would think of his pet at a time like this. Well, if Kiba's going to help, I guess I could too, Shino said, followed by Hinata, then Neji, Tenten, and all the others. They all knew this would be the outcome anyways, even if most still had doubts they could never pass this opportunity. They knew Naruto and Sasuke would do it anyways, and they couldn't not help their friends in need, not to mention if they didn't say yes their whole lives they would be stuck with the thought, what would have happened if I said yes? 4 months later. Naruto screamed, nearly destroying Sasuke's hand as he squeezed it with as much forces as he was pushing with. Come on Naruto, you can do it. You're almost there. Just a little further, love. Naruto heard encouragement coming from everywhere. From all his friends, well, now immortal family, as he pushed with all his might. The pain was near unbearable. So much so Naruto questioned why he wanted a natural birth to begin with. Lured into the belief that it was beautiful and amazing, he opted to do this way instead of the painless version of Sasuke just removing the baby with magic. He wanted to truly earn his baby. He was regretting that decision. This is your fault, Naruto said, sending Sasuke a glare that made him wonder for a second if Naruto was possessed. Because that glare could send fear itself running for the hills. He gulped and just nodded in agreement with everything Naruto was saying, just letting him know to breathe and take his time like he was told he should do. Just one more push, Sakura said, getting ready to catch the baby, seeing as she was the only one with any medical experiences. She had taken all the classes in college and gone to medical school before they all decided on just being traveling writers for their career. Naruto gave his loud, faint cry as he pushed harder than he had before, and a loud cry was heard as Sakura wrapped the baby up after quickly cleaning it. It's a boy, she said, handing the baby to Naruto, who gave a tired smile. The baby settled down immediately when it was in its mother's arms. Naruto stared at the little bundle of joy running his finger under his chin, causing him to give a giggle. He looked up at a proud and happy Sasuke before looking back down. This moment was worth all the pain he had just experienced. And he was happy to think in 13 years this little boy would be a full-grown warrior and would help start their on taking over the world. What are going to name him? Hinata asked, leaning over with the rest of his friends to get a better look. Except Choji, who was in the back setting down the camera that was filming this whole thing. Naruto sent a brief glance to Sasuke, seeing him wait expectantly too. Konohamaru. That's his name, he said with a big smile at his little boy, who was smiling right back. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.